My secret, just do something that ain't nobody ever done before, but make it sound like something that's always been there forever.
Welcome to This Filipino American Life, a podcast that explores the nuanced experiences of Filipinos in the United States. At Iba Pa, I am Elaine Delalis, and I'm joined by my co-hosts,
Ryan Carpio
and Joe Bernardo.
What's up, guys?
Hey,
hi.
what's going on?
And you forgot mine.
Oh, I forgot. Producer Mike. Hey, Mike, say hi.
Oh, hi. I forgot my mic was on still.
All right. Again, I forgot Mike. So if you're
To be fair, he forgot too.
He did too. If you're playing TFAL bingo, take a shot.
Tradition continues.
On this episode, we're going to talk about blogging and blogging. So, and we're going to talk later on to Rainer Maningding. Did I fuck that up or was that good? We're keeping that in. We're keeping that in. I'm really bad at pronouncing Filipino last names. No joke. It's because my last name is super easy because it's Dolalis. So that's easy. But
Dolalas.
people fuck that shit up all the time. But so I'm sorry. But yeah. So we're talking to a blogger. Rainer writes the blog, The Love Life of an Asian Guy. It started as him talking about his dating life and has transitioned into talking about politics and pop culture. And I think that's an interesting platform since the next 4 years are going to be a lot of blogging and probably talking and using our social media platforms for activism. So question, guys. Did you blog growing up?
Why? What do you mean by did I blog?
So I had a live journal.
Oh, you did?
I had a blogger. I had a Zanga.
How many?
I had a Vox.
Oh my gosh.
I had a MySpace.
You also had like an Angel Fire,
I
no?
had, not Angel Fire. It was
Or,
on tripod, and it's still there if you can find it. I hope you don't. So any online platform I had. I didn't have GeoCities, though, because I was like, oh, about tripod. It's free, blah, blah, blah.
Man, I had Zanga.
I had a Zanga.
And I had a group Zanga, actually.
What's a group Zanga?
Like, a bunch of friends had to log in and password to a Zanga. Any of us could post.
So it was like Twitter before there was Twitter?
You could call it that. There's
Or
probably like 11 of us that have it.
Or like more like a message board or something?
Yeah, but it's a Zanga, so it's live. Like, people could see it.
Yeah.
It was called Ryan's Secret Garden. Or Ryan, I think it was actually called Ryan Carpio's Secret Garden.
Oh my God, Ryan.
But we had like...
Thanks for the invite.
No, it was just, it wasn't even my idea. It was like a bunch of friends who wanted to just goof around. And so,
Loyola people, huh?
Nah, not even. No, like my elementary school
college?
friends. And
Oh, okay.
A mixture of like my elementary school friends, my high school friends, and a couple of college people. But I also had a personal one. It was called... Ryan's Story Time.
So you told stories?
Yeah, I mean, it was me writing about stuff.
Was it about your love life?
Some of it. Every time if it was Valentine's Day, I would write about a Valentine's Day experience. So there's a couple of stories in there that was, from when I was like 12, and then one Valentine's story when I was like 16 and stuff like that. So
Wow.
it was called Ryan's Story Time.
Was one of the stories. Today at school, we gave out Valentines, and a girl named Lisa gave me one that said, I choose you.
And there's a picture of a train.
There's a picture of a train? Yeah, basically say you're Ralph.
But yeah, I did have a blog for a little bit, but it didn't last long. I only wrote so much. So
What was your Zanga about?
I had a Zanga, and it was called Lola's Boy.
Oh.
Colon
already.
Yeah. Abunso's Thoughts.
what?
Oh,
Yeah.
adorable koala.
Yeah.
We should have linked. We should have linked each other.
I'm not sure if it's still there. To be honest.
Zanga's gone.
Zanga's
It's gone, right?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
totally gone.
Luckily,
You archived it?
Yeah. I copy pasted everything into like a Word document.
Holy crap, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was
that's
a-
what you're supposed to do. That's what I did.
I did. Yeah, it probably only lasted maybe like a year or two, but I would talk about like stuff that's happened in my world.
Mhm.
I didn't talk about my love life too much, but I talked about like personal things that I try to make it socially conscious somehow. Like,
Wow, you're always woke, Joe.
No.
Yeah, no. Mine was like about Camille Velasco and American Idol. Because I ran into her in the Philippines and I ran into her at a pool hall.
Oh my God, I totally
In
remember
the
that
same-
story. You told me that.
I did not just tell you, Elaine.
I know, you told the world. You told the world. Mike, did you have a blog?
I had a live journal and a blog that just was poetry that I'd written.
What?
That's bad poetry.
I love the world.
My name is Mike, and I write poems. Was it like that?
With my
Thanks.
brown hands.
These brown heads.
And just for that, I'm not going to link any of you to
Oh, no, you got to.
You don't have to, because I probably already know them.
it. Maybe. But yeah, when I fancied myself some kind of spoken word artist in college, I put all of my work on there. And I guess you could read it in my voice.
Was it in that iambic pentameter too? Or I don't
No.
even know what I'm saying. But yeah,
Whatever, dude. We started dating when I was writing all that stuff too. So
Ooh, you fell for it.
calling it out.
Elaine
So
fell
gross.
for it.
Did you write a poem for Elaine?
No.
oh, I might have actually.
What? What?
If I dig in my old 5-star notebooks, maybe.
So many discoveries.
My brown hands on her brown body.
Oh my God.
You sound like you've been to an open mic or two, Joe.
Oh no. Oh no.
Snap.
Snap. My blogs, numerous ones, were always about my life. I always got a little too personal. I think I would not try to name names because I was cognizant of that. But then sometimes I would get lazy and just copy and paste aim chats into I'd be like, I need to remember this, and I'd copy the whole thing.
Did you have a lot of followers?
I don't think so.
I had like 5.
I swear it was just my friends.
It was just my friends.
Yeah.
I had like 3 or something.
Yeah.
I got maybe like 4 comments in total.
I mean, LiveJournal was at its peak because I actually like LiveJournal and Zanga. Like, I met a bunch of those people in real life, and they became my friends.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like my friend Hanale, who I still keep in touch with to this day. Like, I know her through all that stuff, and my friend Chris. Hi, Chris, who is a part of the Mountain Brothers, the hip hop group. I met him through like the LiveJournal days where we would all write to each other.
Huh.
Yeah, he's a parallel in the group. If you ever listen to the Mountain Brothers. Yeah. Hi, Chris.
Hey, Chris.
What's up?
Just dropping that name over there somewhere.
I mean, I'm so sorry. Let me pick that up. Let me pick up that name.
It's kind of weird. Blogging's like not even popular. I mean, blogging's kind of morphed into Facebook or other
Yeah, like
kind of
status
social media.
updates.
Yeah.
Twitter.
Yeah.
Like, there's I don't know about you guys, but I took time writing my stuff on
I did.
Zanga. So it was like it was almost like an essay, and you take your time to write it,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes you can put pictures with it. And now it's just everything's so instantaneous, and
Yeah.
like I want to see it now, kind of thing. But
Yeah.
you know, there was a reason why Mike wrote poetry, I imagine. You know, because it took time, and you wanted to. It was a published thing. You know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
and I really like that aspect of it, even though there's probably my audience was very small.
Yeah. I mean, I still do it now.
Yeah.
I bought a URL. I have obliviousnerdgirl.com. That's my thing. And like, I will blog occasionally there, but it takes too long. And like,
Yeah.
I'm just like, you just follow me on Instagram and like look at my tweets. That's the same thing.
What's funny is I used to say, who's gonna read this?
Yeah.
Because I'm not that interesting. You know, like
That's so self-deprecating.
no, but you know
right?
what I mean. Like when you think about what I wrote, like Valentine's Day stories. I wrote like, you know, I was trying to be all cool, but there was not. The point I was trying to make was like, what is it? We still say that now about like Facebook, or Twitter, right?
Yeah.
Who's gonna read this? And then you realize a lot of people are.
A lot of people are, yeah.
So that's what I meant.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, blogging.
What was your least favorite thing about blogging?
The time it took.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think especially back then, I was a little, we were younger.
Mm-hmm.
You were more conscious of what you put out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like it's there, it's out in the world, and you can't take it back.
Right.
You know. With this kind of era of like social media, it's easy to like delete, or
Right.
things are so fast that people probably it would be buried under other stories.
Totally.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember I wanted my top page to scroll my pictures. And it took me like a whole day to figure out how to code the scroll.
You coded it.
It was like Flash.
You figured out that.
Yeah.
It's like a
Code. We just copy.
No.
You copy pasted that.
No,
code.
I know, but you have to do something special for it to go left to right.
Auto. Yeah.
And
Mike knows what he's talking
I know,
about.
because I didn't know what I was doing, and I was like, man, I want my picture to scroll, and then so I had to make a banner with all my pictures and my friends in it, and then it would scroll. And it took me an entire day to figure out how to do it.
Good
and
on you.
I know, right? That's why I'm like,
Did you have music when people went on your page?
Oh
couldn't even
my
figure that out.
God. I
couldn't
did.
figure that out.
I did.
I had the counter and everything. You know, you have the counter in the bottom.
I had that. I had a guest book.
You had a guest book.
Oh,
man.
so embarrassing. I love it though.
What was your least favorite thing?
It was the time, and I hated like when you would format a post and then you would accidentally push one thing and then it would disappear. And you're like, shit, I just wrote like hours of like
Oh,
and
okay.
it's gone.
Yeah.
I hate it. And that happens a lot. Actually, it still happens to this day when I update my blog. I'm like, oh shit, it's gone. What did I write? And I was like, it was so eloquent. I'm like, oh, whatever. This is like, blah, 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 blah. This is like the whatever I just wrote like really quick. But
I have a question. Do you think our listeners actually read our blog posts?
I hope so.
I wonder.
I think. Well, our blog. That's a good question.
Because I put some time in.
So please
Could have fooled me.
Hey.
Hey. Joe really does. I put no time into them, so you can always tell when I write them.
Well, I think. Okay, my answer is yes, but you never know because just because they read it doesn't mean they'll comment on it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
So I think they do because they want to know what the episode's about.
Hey, TFAL pans, if you're reading our blogs, why don't you comment on it on our Facebook page, on the actual ThisFilipinoAmericanLife.com blog, because then we'll know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except for Lauren, because you do it all the time.
Oh, that's
Oh, and
right?
Speaking of Lauren, our TFAL pan of the episode is Lauren Lola. Hi, Lauren.
Hi, Lauren.
Lauren.
Thank you for listening to us and for always like loving what we do. We appreciate you so much. And I am reading your book. It's happening, and I wish I had the title on the top of my hands, but I don't. But I appreciate it, and
She'll get to it.
I will get to it. I'm reading a lot of things right now.
So, do you ever use any kind of platform now for your kind of political opinions?
Yeah, my Facebook status updates. No, well, yeah, mostly.
Yeah.
Like I don't write them out, but I think it's kind of obvious by the things that I share. Yeah.
I'm the same. I don't tweet. I still don't know how to tweet. I probably.
Ryan, you open Twitter.
I know.
You write things down. You hit tweet.
Yeah. But I don't know how to follow and
You click a button that says follow. Right.
so
Right.
someone out there wants to teach me how to do this.
I mean, if President Garbage Bill Kid can do it, I mean,
That's the best. I like that.
We've come up with some funky names too. But I don't tweet, but I do use Facebook. You know, kind of like what you said. You know, share some articles here and there, and some once in a while, share some words about things that I find important, etc. But let me put it like this: I don't know if I ever get that deep into sharing on Facebook. I rarely go into a Facebook like rant, or I rarely go into like publicly. You know, for example, there's
try
like
not
that.
to.
There's like there's some Facebook support pages out there that we join, and I've expressed things on those kind of like more closed groups, as opposed to like having it available to all the world to see. So, and then of course there's photos and pictures and all that stuff, but Facebook is my go-to, I guess. If you, yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's the easiest thing.
Yeah.
Like, because Facebook is like, you know, it's where everyone is. minus Reddit, and I can't get behind Reddit because it's too like messy for me.
Yeah, it just looks.
I know you read it a bunch, Mike.
Sakit sa mata.
Yeah.
What about you, Joe?
Yeah, I definitely use Facebook to try to talk about some, political opinions. I try to make it lighthearted as much as possible. I find myself policing myself in terms of what I say. I don't like to go through like long Facebook rants because
They're long.
And usually I share articles. But yeah, social media, especially Facebook, has been totally I don't want to say toxic, but it's very, how do I say, it's very volatile right now, especially during this election and the Trump. And I've actually gotten into like Facebook debates,
Right.
with people. And they're like the worst because they just kind of go on and on between you and whoever you're whatchamacallit, like person you're debating with, and you're just never gonna change that person's mind. And then I don't know, Facebook turns into just kind of like a wailing wall sometimes for
I've never thought of it that way, but I like that.
yeah, like a wailing wall for both sides of especially liberals for this this election cycle. But yeah, I found myself not going Facebook as much after the election. And I'm sure people get annoyed with my posts. But yeah, it could be volatile sometimes.
Yeah. Have you ever unfollowed people on Facebook?
Yes.
I have too.
Yes.
A lot.
His name is Ryan Carpio.
Whatever.
He doesn't post enough to unfollow.
All the Clippers fans.
For me, like certain people, like I try to be like open to everyone's opinion, and this is not even like politics. This is just like people's lives. And then I have a phobia of certain thing, and I'm not gonna say what it is, but I have a phobia. And somebody posted something that was a trigger for me, and I was like, well, that's it. I'm unfollowing you right now.
Oh.
And so I just stopped because I love this person to death. They're my homie, but I'm just like, I can't do it anymore. I can't deal with it. So I unfollowed them, and I feel like my life is a lot better.
Did they just post a lot of clowns or something? Or?
I'm not saying what it is because I don't want anybody to do it. But I'll tell you later.
Scary Santo Niños.
Santo Niño, Santo Niño, Santo Niño. The Santo Niño joke is because if you look for this trailer right now called Seclusion, it's a movie playing at the Metro Manila Film Festival.
Yes.
It's about scary Santo Niños.
And if you're Catholic, if you're raised Catholic and you had Santo Niños all over your house, it's gonna freak you out.
Like your house right now that we're staring at the Santo Niño behind Ryan.
Don't remind me.
You know that really small Virgin statue? The small statue
The
of
one
Virgin
that's glow
Mary?
in the dark?
Yeah, it's glow in the dark. Oh. So sometimes it kind of scares me.
Because you like walk out to get some water, you're like, ah.
Blog about that.
Yeah, so yeah, check out the trailer of Seclusion. It's spelled like Tagalog way. It's
I like that was your cop out because like I wouldn't be able to spell it either.
Seklusion.
Good job, Joe.
Seclusion.
Seclusion.
You win the spelling bee.
Seclusion.
Oh, some fun news. Fans, you not only can comment on our page, but you can also call us. Say what? This Filipino American Life now has a phone number. It is in honor of Mike's Oxnard roots. 805-394 TFAL. So 805-394-8325. You can call that number, leave us a message, and we will appreciate your words, and we will talk about it on the next show, I guess.
Yeah, if it's a really good one, then we'll play it on the next show.
Yeah,
Cool.
You never know. And Mike, I don't know if you know this, but yes, we chose it. I chose it as 805 for you.
Aww.
Whatever, because 818 was taken.
And it's actually, that is true. 818 was taken. 213 was taken.
Oh.
323 was taken.
424.
Oh, I didn't check 424.
That's okay.
Darn.
That's
okay.
like
What's
that's like
424?
It's the overlay for 310.
the new
yeah,
one.
that's the fake one.
Oh,
Don't ostracize people of 424 area.
No,
Hey, we
it's
love
fake.
you, 424.
We love you, 424. Hi.
I don't. It's weird.
Call us.
But call us, 805-394-8325. And with that, we'll take a break, and then we'll go into the interview with Love Life of an Asian Guy, Rainier. All right. And we're back. This is This Filipino American Life, and we have a special guest. We have, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Rainer Maningding, and I'm the writer and creator of The Love Life of an Asian Guy.
Cool. Yay.
Welcome to
Welcome.
the podcast.
Applause. Thank you for being on our show. What is Love Life of an Asian Guy?
So The Love Life of an Asian Guy is a Facebook page that I started that primarily talks about race, politics, and pop culture. We've been around on Facebook at least, for upwards of like 5-6 years.
Wow, that's a long time.
So, how did you start it? Like, what was the genesis of Love Life of an Asian Guy?
Well, the first sort of seed of The Love Life of an Asian Guy started when I graduated high school. And I was coming into college, and I was like, you know what, I wanted to do something different. I was at a college that not too many of my friends were at. So it gave me this opportunity in my mind to sort of like reinvent myself. And I was like, you know what, I wanted to start a page to address my concerns about being an Asian American man. Because at the time, I was just, I felt like I was just so inundated with all this negative media about Asian men being this and Asian men being that. And I didn't like being told who I was. And I wanted to be able to tell that story for myself. And so that's how the name came about, The Love Life of an Asian Guy. It was sort of my tongue-in-cheek way of saying that, contrary to what people think, Asian guys do have love lives. And so I talked about the dates that I went on to, and I was like, hey, I went on this date, it was shitty or it was amazing. And so it was just a really raw and candid way for people to say, hey, I guess this guy's talking about his love life. Me as an Asian guy, maybe I can talk about my love life, or maybe I resonate with this. So that's how it started, and it sort of evolved after that.
So you were single when it started, and did you have a girlfriend before? And like when you were dating, did you have did you have a specific tastes or types or anything like that? Like, I'm just wondering, why document it? Like it was, why document something so personal to you?
So at the time, I was single, and I actually hadn't had a girlfriend prior to that since I was 16 years old. And so I started the page when I was 18.
Wow.
And the whole time, throughout the whole entire blog, I just went out on dates. I didn't have a girlfriend. And the first person who became my girlfriend was Olivia. And that's who I am now engaged to.
Oh, nice. Congratulations.
And thank you. But yeah, it was weird because, when I started it and I was talking about my love life, I was really insecure about family members finding out, and I never talked about it with my family because it's you go, especially Filipino families, they're always super nosy, and they're like, oh, who's this person? Like, oh, I read this thing on that online thing, and I'm like, oh my god, please, no, and so especially being the youngest of four, I was always sort of patronized about oh, when are you gonna have a girlfriend and all that kind of stuff. And so I was really always quiet about it, and I didn't really want to talk to people. So having the page was my outlet, and I felt like because I was the youngest and because I didn't have really an opportunity to talk amongst my family and have sort of, anyone except the fact that, I had these things going on. The page was my outlet.
Did your family ever stumble upon it?
Yeah, they did. They did. But I was like super coy about it. I was like, no, that post is just whatever. And I would always like brush it off and I would not talk about it. Like I would always avoid it, or like I'd walk out of the room or something like that, because it was just so, like, I felt really embarrassed because, around my family, I'm relatively reserved, but as everyone knows on the page, I'm a lot more outspoken and,
you're like super
vulgar
woke
and whatnot.
I'm actually curious, in geography wise, I know you're in Texas now, but where did you grow up in Texas, or is that where you're?
Oh, hell no. Really not. I grew up in San Jose, California, Bay Area.
Okay.
So I was there my whole life, up until 22. That's when I moved out to Texas. We moved there to Atlanta after a year in Texas, and then we came back to Texas.
Now, is this you by yourself, or is it with your family, or with your fiance?
Just me and my fiance.
Oh, okay. So, when you started Love Life of an Asian Guy, did you have certain experiences in dating that kind of shaped why you wanted to document being, being someone who's Asian American male, going through like this dating experience, dating life? Like what kind of experience? Like, exactly. Like, what was your, how do you say, like what experiences caused you to want to document?
So it's a number of things. I think, people also have to understand that prior to the Love Life of an Asian Guy, I was still writing. I was actually writing for several years, but I was writing on like MySpace. I was like a typical high schooler. And so I'd been writing for a long time. And so I'd been exposed to like that pool of racist trolls at a very, very early age. And so I remember talking about like dating or interracial dating or being Asian. And I remember at a very young age, just like hearing racist shit, or, I'd talk about Asian, like being an Asian guy, and then I'd get comments from white guys, or I'd get comments from like Asian women who are like, oh, well, I don't date Asian guys because all Asian guys are blah, 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 blah. And so, my dating life or my dating identity had been like highly racialized. And so, I just got really curious, and I was like, okay, well, let me see what the world thinks. And so I would do research, and I'd see what people are saying on blogs, and people were mimicking the same stuff. Like, oh, Asian guys are this, or, I don't want to date Asian guys because they're all weak, or they're not good boyfriends, or, the insert the penis myth kind of thing. And so, you start to internalize a lot of this stuff, and you're like, wow, like, am I a weak person? Like, am I not qualified to be a good boyfriend? Like, does nobody want me? And you see movies and TV shows, and it just reaffirms everything. And it came to a point where it was just, the racial noise was so deafening that I kind of just got fed up, and I was like, I need to go tell people, and I need to prove people that like this isn't true, because even though I'm hearing all this shit, this isn't who I am, this isn't who I feel, or this isn't what I feel. And so I needed to have sort of a counter story, because everything that was being told to everybody about Asian men was primarily from white people. White people were telling these stories about what Asian people were. White people were telling everyone that Asian guys weren't desirable. White people were the ones who were, ignoring Asian people on like, oh, the celebrities hottest 100, blah, 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 blah. Like they were the ones who were erasing us from that list.
Yeah.
And it was my opportunity to say, you know what? I think it's time that I take my mic and say something.
So, when you were on your dates, did you date like people who aren't Asian? And then did any of them kind of reaffirm kind of the stereotypes that you've encountered before?
You know, the funny thing is, I had been writing about interracial dating for like quite some time. You know, when I first started the page, but most of the people who I dated were actually Asian. But I had dated, or I had went on dates with people who were white or Latino or black. And for the most part, like everyone was fine. No one, I don't think anyone really had any like racist moments. I think the only thing that really stood out to me was I was talking to this one lady, and she was non-Asian, and we were barely talking, like a couple weeks, and she was like, "Oh, by the way, I don't mind small penises, so you know you're good."
Wow. Wow.
And I was like, "What
Why?
the fuck is this?" And so, like,
That's awful. Oh my god.
you know, so, like you're talking to someone, and like you don't know what to say because you don't want to like rip on someone that you've been like intimately talking with, but at the same time, it's like I don't know. So I mean, that's probably like the height of it, but I think a lot of it also was, you know, this sentiment that like I'd message people or talk to people like, oh, I'm not into Filipino guys, or you know, I only date Korean guys or Japanese guys, and I'm like, okay, so yeah,
But we're awesome.
exactly.
Those people are stupid.
Taking a step back, I know you've mentioned that you're the youngest in your family. I'm also the youngest, so
He's just like you.
Well, I'm wondering if any of the dating advice that you've received came from like older siblings or cousins or anything like that really doesn't that's more personal. Like, did you ever have talks with siblings and say, this is kind of like what dating is, as opposed to like maybe the media out there, on a more personal level?
Yeah, so my situation with us was kind of interesting because my sister, who's the oldest, she met her husband when she was like a sophomore in high school.
Wow.
And they'd been together like ever since. Like they're married with 2 kids and stuff like that. So I had a really good foundation for what a healthy relationship was like, and so I really modeled what I wanted after like my sister, because they were just, they were a really strong couple. Mm-hmm. And then from my older brother, not my oldest brother, but my older brother, he was sort of like the rebellious type, and he dated a lot of women, and he was pretty much exclusively interracial dating. And so, in high school and middle school, I saw my brother dating like black women and Latino women and stuff like that. So I think there was that seed of knowing that like, I don't have to feel like I need to date this specific person or that specific race or whatever. Not that like, I went out on the prowl like specifically looking for, white women or whatever, but I knew that I didn't have to feel barred or feel like I had to date a particular person. But yeah, I'd say that it's a mixture of those, my older brother and my sister.
That's awesome.
I have just a quick question. Did the people that you dated, did they read your blog afterwards, and did they ever respond to you? Did anything backfire like that?
No, interestingly enough, they didn't. Part of the reason why is because I used pen names, so I didn't like always use the name of the person who I had dated.
Smart.
So that way they didn't know for sure. There was one particular girl who I went on a date, and she was a really nice person, and the date was totally fine. But I wrote about it, and then she read it, and she liked it, and we've been friends ever since. So I at least haven't had any negative experiences with people reading the the blog after the fact.
Like no one started like the anti-love life of an Asian guy blog. It was just like
no, well, not then. I mean, they have it now, but not then.
they have it now.
You have an anti-blog?
Yeah,
Someone
there's a couple.
Oh,
Wow.
wow. We're impressed.
What did they talk about?
Okay, so there's two of them. I'm not going to say their names. So I don't want to give them a plug.
Yeah,
That's
don't
fine.
bother. Yeah.
Hate life of an Asian guy.
There's one guy. So like he had made an Instagram account, and he would just like try to post memes about me and stuff like that. And it was ridiculous. And I reported him, and he got taken down because he was impersonating me. But then the started popping up on Facebook, and it was just like ridiculous stuff. There's like 12 people who like the page, and I was like, okay, it's not that big of a deal. And then there's other person who is like this really disgruntled Asian dude who I'm pretty sure like he got like swiped off the page, and so he'll like when I post stuff, he'll post his commentary about my stuff, and that's about it. And it's funny because like of the 8 people who are on his page, most of the comments come from people on my page who come to troll his page. So I love it.
Wow, so much haterade out there. So much haterade.
I don't understand it.
So, how did your audience grow? Like, you became so huge. Like, how did it grow?
We're gonna learn from you right now.
So I think the biggest thing is that a lot of people think that the page grew like overnight. Like there are a lot of activists out there who their followings skyrocketed after like a year of starting, or like something went viral and whatnot. But I always tell people that I've been doing this and I've been writing for over 10 years.
Yeah.
And so there, like 95% of the time I was a nobody. Like nobody knew who I was. And I was just really consistent about writing. And I think that my name had been out there because I had been writing about interracial dating, and I was involved in groups and other pages, and I was always really consistent. But then I think what really pushed the page was during the shooting of Mike Brown. And I was involved in these interracial dating communities with Asian men and Black women. They're called AMBW communities. Mm-hmm. And when that shooting happened, a lot of the Black women on the page were very vocal about what was going on socially and politically. But unfortunately, a lot of the Asian men were not. And in fact, a lot of them were really ignorant and downright just like racist.
Ouch.
And so I was really confused. I was like, okay, hold on a second. Like, how do you have a community where one half is being, their human rights are being violated, but the other half isn't showing any interest? So like, you want to date them, you want to go to bed with them, but you don't want to care about what they're actually going through. Mm-hmm. And so it was frustrating to me because I was like disappointed, because I've always been like the type of like, okay, like uplift Asian people, but mm-hmm. I couldn't stand by seeing so many Asian people being like blatantly ignorant and racist. And so I took it upon myself to say, you know what, like if no one else can talk about it, then let me go talk about it. And combined with the fact that I was taking like ethnic studies classes and Asian American studies classes, I really felt that it was necessary for me to express my feelings about anti-Blackness and what was going on with police brutality from the perspective of an Asian person, and just to show my support. And then when I did that, that's when the page started to have a different set of followers. And so that is sort of the initial thing that happened. But I think it was just a matter of me consistently talking about race in America and being Asian American and talking about police brutality and, just having article after article that just really blew up and whatnot. And just, I post every single day, and I've been posting every single day for the past like 3-4 years. And so people know that I'm here, they know where to find me, and they know that there's always going to be content.
So it started with the dating aspect, and then it sounds like when you were in grad school or in college, you were studying ethnic studies, so it transitioned into the political commentary. So like, how was that just a natural shift in like how you wrote, or like, because that's pretty different to go from like your love life to like political commentary.
Yeah, and it was a really big change, and it was funny because when I was talking about interracial dating, I had this huge group of white women who were on the page,
mm-hmm.
and then I started talking about police brutality, and then I started talking about injustice, and that whole community of white women pretty much vanished.
Wow.
Like completely left.
Like unfollowed you?
Yeah, just completely unfollowed me. Just like completely unfollowed me. And I got a lot of pushback from the white people who were on my page, and I got a lot of pushback from the Asian people from my page. Like, there's pretty much none of the Asian people who were there in the beginning. None of them are here now. Like, none of them still follow my page.
Oh, that's interesting. So who's the audience now? Is it people who are like into the political commentary?
Yeah, yeah. That's pretty much the entire demographic. So it was a huge shift, and that's why it's so confusing for a lot of new readers, because they look at the page and they look at the name like The Love Life of an Asian Guy, then why do you talk about race?
Mm-hmm.
Because some people don't know the history of it, and you don't know where that transition came from. But the way that I explain it, when people ask like, why do you talk about this when your page is called The Love Life of an Asian Guy, I say two different answers. On one hand, it's like, well, my love life can entail whatever I want. It doesn't necessarily have to be romantic. It can be food. It can be my interest in politics. It can be my interest in social justice. But I think I've come to realize that the love life of an Asian guy has less to do with my love of other things as opposed to me figuring out how to love myself. And so the love life of an Asian guy is just me figuring out how I feel about things.
Wow. That's deep.
That is
very deep.
Bravo to you. I mean it. Just talking about like the evolution of it. I salute you, especially the latter part. I mean, I imagine that's entertaining from the beginning, but to actually have political commentary out there that shakes people up, I think is awesome. So kudos to you on that.
That, and like I think, like I was gonna say, like I was gonna ask, well, why didn't you rebrand? And then I was like, well, that's perfect. That's a perfect answer.
Yeah.
Man, that's seriously. I'm like, man, kudos. That's great. That's
so
great.
Ryan's taking notes right now.
I totally am,
because he's seeing in you what he is, like. You are his dream life right now. Like writing all the time, dating.
Notes.
Yeah, I mean, so I think that's sort of a testament to a lot of other activists, and to let everyone know that if you're in this space, whether you have a podcast, whether you have a page, know that your platform is going to have a natural evolution, and it's going to be different, and it'll take some time. It's sort of awkward at first. And I'm sort of dealing with that with the podcast. Like I'm trying to it's like the first date. You're like, oh, I don't know what to say. But then after a while, you're like, really comfortable, and it's really natural. And I think you just have to keep being awkward until you're not.
Yeah. Our first episode was very awkward.
We're still awkward.
We're better. We're definitely better.
We're getting used to it. That's for sure. So like, do you have any mentors in terms of like being like one of the pretty big brand in terms of like social media and your writing and activism? Like, how do you just go about it? Because this is like, it's new territory for us. And so we're trying to figure it out. Like a lot of this is we're asking you questions. So it's advice for us.
Well, like I'd say that I never wanted to create the love life of an Asian guy in the image of anybody else. I didn't want it to like sound like anybody else. I didn't want it to resemble any other page. And I remember, and this was back like when I first started the page. I was actually at the same time I was a dual blogger. I was a fashion photographer.
Oh,
fancy.
And I would go to San Francisco and I'd do these events and stuff like that. And I remember I had this really, really long event and I was in San Francisco. And I was walking around and I was like, man, what am I going to do with the blog? Like, what am I going to do with the Love Life of an Asian Guy? Because at the time, believe it or not, that fashion blog was actually bigger than the Love Life of an Asian Guy.
Oh.
And I was like, yeah, I need to do something to sort of pick this one up.
Mm-hmm.
And I was, it was like, like 9 o'clock, and I stumbled into this bookstore. And I was looking, I was like, okay, like I need like a sign, like I need like something to tell me what to do or whatever. Because I was sort of desperate at that point. And on the side of the bookshelf, they had posted this written piece, and it was long, but the basic gist of it was to say, if you don't feel like writing something, don't write it. If you don't know about it, don't write it. If you don't like it, don't write it. Don't write it because your friends want you to write it. Don't write it because your girlfriend wants you to write it. Don't write it because, just because it's trending. Don't write it because of blah, 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 blah. And it was just going on this whole list of the reasons why you should not write. And at the very end, it was just like, write it because that's what you want. And that was such a powerful moment for me, because I realized, like, starting out, I was like, I was trying to be so many other people. I was like, I was taking influences from like Anthony Bourdain. Like, I liked the way that he wrote, and I liked, I like this activist and that activist and blah, 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 blah. I like Richard Aoki. But I was like, I didn't feel authentic.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've made it a point to just not have any mentors or not have anybody who I want to resemble. And I think especially in the activist community, that's a good thing, because people are always being accused of copying other people.
It's true.
And people are always being accused of stealing content from other people.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're just so original and you just talk about your own shit, then, you don't have to worry. So I there are people who I admire, but no particular mentors.
Yeah, you're not wearing Malcolm X glasses.
No. I'm not cool enough.
Who do you admire?
I actually admire communities more than I admire specific people.
Okay.
I admire the Black LGBTQ, specifically the Black gay and Black trans community. I think they have some of the most intelligent and just the most witty and the best writers that you've ever seen. And they're just incredibly sharp. And on Twitter, they're just like, amazing. And it's just amazing to watch. Like you watch this community and it feels like everyone's in sync, and the way that they talk about issues and their nuance and their attention to detail is just, fantastic. And there isn't necessarily a particular activist in particular from that community, but I have friends who are part of that community, and I just really admire them. I admire the indigenous activist community, Native Americans, and how so many of them are like unbelievably committed to social justice, but at the same time, so many of them are active, like in person. They're out in different. They're volunteering at organizations, or they're helping out at like soup kitchens, or protesting at the Dakota Access Pipeline, and watching them just have this full 360 form of activism is just amazing. I'm also really spiking an interest in activists from like the Philippines or Southeast Asian and South Asian activists, and watching them navigate Asian American communities as a brown person, as someone who isn't, a Cho or a Lee, and trying to, just seeing how different Filipino activists interact. And so it's just I like watching communities and seeing them grow.
Yeah, we have in the Filipino community, there's like a number of activists, but we also know that, Filipinos can be, especially Filipino Americans, can be fairly conservative.
Yeah.
Do you have any kind of interactions with like that segment of the Filipino American community? Like, what are your experiences with that? Have anybody contacted you or gave you feedback from that community? And how does it feel about dealing with conservative Filipinos?
Oh my gosh. So I've talked quite a bit about the Filipino president and my deep criticisms about him. And I've received so much backlash from Filipinos who are like, you don't understand, these drug pushers, they deserve to die, and blah, 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 blah. And so it's really tricky to talk about it because I know that, some of them will just end the conversation with, oh, well, you're not in the Philippines, so you don't know. And it's kind of hard. It's like, well, yeah, that's true. But at the same time, I'm like, well, people are getting massacred by like the thousands. And I think there's something wrong with that. So I've dealt with a lot of that. I've also dealt with a lot of homophobic, transphobic Filipinos. So I've dealt with a lot of Filipinos who are like really dismissive about anti-blackness. Like, oh, a Filipino person thinks it's funny to go on Wow Wow Wee in blackface, and you say something and they're like, oh, come on, bro. Like, it's not a big deal, bro. And
no, it is.
You're almost
it's
just
a
like,
big deal.
That's that's the worst.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like, I have to try to call out Filipino people in the Filipino community as much as possible because, especially with the conservatism, both politically and religiously, and socially, it's tough. You want to have this tough love approach, but sometimes it's like they're so stubborn that there's no room for love at that point. When someone is like talking about dismissing the murder of thousands of people, then there's no love for me from my side. It's like, no, I just need to be tough.
That's very timely, especially now that we have Cheeto President Voldemort. I can't say his name, so that's what I'm going to call. And so, like, we're recording this in January. Obviously, we're going to put this out in February, but like, this is the day after the women's marches that have just happened, and all of us here, like, we participated in that experience. And it's just in these trying times, like, what do you foresee, like, the direction of your work, like, for the next 4 years?
Oh man, it's going to be really interesting because activist spaces, ever since Mr. Hellraiser got elected, they've changed. And I've noticed that a lot of activist spaces have sort of been commercialized in a sense. So you have a lot of like white activists who are like, yeah, come on, let's do this, man. And I'm like, where were you like 3 months ago, dude? Like, you were nowhere to be found. And I was like, please stop. I'm making, jokes about like Asian Americans and shit, and like you're talking about like, yeah, I know what you're talking, like, no, dude. So for me, I think I've grown my page, and I've cast my net, and now it's a matter of refining the details. So some of the things I'm looking to do for the next 4 years would be to put a lot of white activists in check, and the ones who do get it, and the ones who are open, hopefully they'll know what their responsibility is and what their role is in sort of the larger community of ethnic studies and whatnot. I also, like I said, want to bring light to issues between East Asian and South and Southeast Asians. I feel like not even just activism, but Asian American visibility and representation is so heavily skewed towards East Asians.
Yes, agreed.
And it's like we always talk about this whole like, about the fact that Philippines, most of them are native English speakers, and most of them have adopted a lot of American ideals. And so we're always like, okay, well, how come like, Filipino food isn't popular? How come like there aren't more Filipino actors and whatnot, and blah, 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 blah. And so I want to sort of try to bring more visibility to specifically Filipino issues and Southeast Asian, Asian issues, because I think there's a lot of erasure coming from East Asians. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've gotten like hate mail from East Asian people who are pissed off because I call them out and they're like, "Oh, you fucking Filipino! Oh, you guys are dark. You guys are my maids," and blah blah blah. And so it's like, yeah, and it's like horrible shit. And I don't think that people understand that nuance. So that's what I want to talk about. I also, like I said, I want to be able to be more inclusive with my activism and do more work with Indigenous communities. And yeah, like I said, it's just a matter of refining certain things and making sure that the content on the page is still consistent and sharp, but also very relentless about calling out Mr. Hellraiser.
Awesome. I think one of your conversation about visibility of Southeast Asians and Filipinos, that was a post of yours that got me like as a fan of yours. I think it was like June or something of like last year or maybe the year before. And I don't know who you were calling out, but you were just like totally like calling out, like not naming names, but calling out like, "Hey, you East Asian bloggers, like, we're here." And I was like, who is this brother right here? I need to know him. Because that's a conversation that a lot of us here we've had these conversations privately, and we're like, like we're the ones on TV, and like East Asians, like they like ride hard for us when we're on like America's Best Dance Crew, or if it's like Vincent Rodriguez in My Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. But then when we talk about like Filipino American veterans issues or the Manongs or the labor movement, they're gone. Yep. It's like, where'd you go? What's happening?
Exactly. And that is, I totally remember that post because I got so much shit for that, because that's exactly what I said. I was like, you know what? It's so funny that East Asians want to claim Filipinos when we're doing cool shit. Oh shit, the Jabberwockies. Oh, they're Asian. Oh my God, look at those Asian people. But then it's like I bring up colorism, or I bring up, the fact that a lot of top East Asian activists totally ignore us.
Yes.
And I won't name names, but people know who they are. People know who the other big Asian activists are. And a lot of them totally ignore us. And so, again, I got so much shit from, like, the funny thing is, next to racist white people, I get the most shit from racist
Asians.
East Asian people. Yeah.
That's gonna be how it is.
Yeah.
I want to play a little like devil's advocate, not devil's advocate, but like what are your thoughts on kind of the other side of us being invisible? You talked about, white feminists, taking over or kind of spearheading like the Women's March, and they were pretty much absent with other movements that are going on. What about like the privileges, in the Filipino American community? Like, for example, like a lot of Filipino Americans, we forget that, we're also part of settler colonialism being in the United States. There's also, those who claim to be Pacific Islander, and then that kind of
stop it. Stop.
and then
We're not.
and then that marginalizes, a lot of smaller Pacific Islander American communities, or the invisibility of the Itas, in the Philippines, or Filipino Muslims, or stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like we're also I don't say we're victims, but like we also we've been marginalized, and we also marginalized.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I guess the analogy that I'm thinking of is a lot of I love cooking, and I love like culinary shit. Even though like I'm not the best cook, I love like watching videos and whatnot. And one of the biggest things that a lot of pro chefs say is that when you're cooking, you should always be cleaning at the same time, and that way you're removing the mess while you're making something. And I think that's a perfect analogy for how Filipino people should go about their activism. You should continue to promote the topics of interest within the Filipino American community, visibility to trans Filipinos in the Philippines right now, politically. But then at the same time, not feel like you are immune from criticism of your own community. I shared this one post, and this one lady, she was like grilling Filipino communities, and I was like loving it. I was like, yes, because she was talking about how Filipino conservatism. She was talking about how like Filipino dudes are like, they're really abusive to Filipino women. And so, I think anytime you're a person of color, there's this idea that like, hey, we've been fucked over by white supremacy. And so we need to better ourselves. And what a lot of people mess up on is they want to improve their image by making their image perfect. So they think, okay, so the way that we go about this is we show everyone that Asian people are awesome. They're we're, oh my God, we're so smart. Look how successful this Asian person is. Oh my gosh, look, there's this billionaire who's Asian.
It's respectability politics.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's like, for me, I like to say that you can still do both. I can still talk about the colorism that Filipinos face from East Asians, but I can also talk about the colorism within the Filipinos between lighter skinned Filipinos and darker skinned Filipinos. And then even between that, I can talk about, indigenous tribes of Filipinos who are still constantly oppressed by Filipinos who are like, quote, more Americanized and whatnot, or the privileges between Filipino Americans and Filipinos. And so there's so much that you can do. And I don't think that it has to be one thing or the other.
That's awesome. I think Ryan is now your biggest fan.
I gotta say, man, when I first thought, Love Life of Asian Guy, I was like, this is gonna be super entertaining. We're talking about dating, and I was like, okay, now he's into politics. I'm like, maybe less entertaining. I was completely wrong. You are.
Ryan raised his fist.
Oh yeah,
because
that's right. We're on a podcast. Nobody can see that.
No one can see you do that.
But I don't like asking this, but I gotta know. Like, are you still in school right now? Are you?
No. I already graduated in like 2014.
Okay. And how old are you? Because you speak like
Ryan?
26.
No, I just want to know, man, because
said
I'm like, man.
26.
Okay, cool.
said
So,
26.
because part of it is like just kind of the, you know, it's a testament to like exposure and just making sure that. Let me put it like this: I want more people to kind of be exposed to this discussion that we're having, and you know, there's a lot of younger people out there who aren't, and you know, I think about like my nieces and my nephews and the future of my family, but I just, you know, not that age matters, but I wanted to gauge where we were at because I wish
He's impressed that
I'm
you are
impressed.
very woke
Yeah.
for your age.
I'm not, you know, I'm impressed. That's all.
That seems to be a trend for us. So we've talked to young people, and they seem like Kevin Casasola from UCLA, and our impression of him was like, oh my God, you're like so good and so woke and so young. Because when we were in college, that's not what we were like. So you haven't even gone through Saturn's return yet. That's what happens when you're 28. I'm into astrology. I'm all about that business. And you are so woke and so like on it. I am also a fan.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is, like, I went to California to visit my family a couple of months ago, and I'd visited them for the first time in like 2 years. I'd been gone in the South, and I saw my younger cousin, and she just started college, and she was talking about like, oh, you know, I sometimes read your page, and I have friends who read your page, and I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. But she was talking about like activism that she's into, you know, and I was really impressed because, you know, she's 18, and I didn't get into the whole activism thing till I was like, you know, about 21. And I'm seeing more and more really young activists who are like 16 years old and 17 years old. And it's ridiculous. And it's a good thing. There's also a bad thing to it. But I mean, on the side of optimism, it's just really fascinating to see so many of these activists getting just younger and younger. And hopefully, you know, that young, naive activism that they are, or that they're into when they're 16 and starts to mature by the time they're 21. By the time they're 21, they're unstoppable.
I have a question. Do you have, how do you gauge your impact? Like, do you ever think about like, have I made a dent in white supremacy or whatever? Or
wow, that's a tough one.
Like how do you know or how do you kind of tell yourself you're making a difference?
How many white people have you made cry? How much white tears have you drank today?
I mean, I'll, you know, it's obviously hard. Like, you know, there's no way to like fully gauge that, but I can tell by a couple things. One of the things would be how much the racist trolling from white people has decreased on my page over the last few years. And a lot of it came from what everyone knows on my page as my famous unemployment hammer, which is my post where I get racist people fired. And so
I saw those.
Can you explain a little bit more about that?
It's so awesome.
Yeah. So basically the idea is if someone's being racist online, and if we have substantial proof that that they said this thing, and if we can verify it from multiple sources and whatnot, we'll contact employers, we'll contact them on social media, we'll just totally inundate them. And then we'll post it on the page, and everyone will just totally spam their employer and basically get them to terminate their racist associate. And we've done this multiple times.
That's so awesome.
We've had bankers get fired. We've had guys who own their own companies and they lose sponsorship.
Wow.
And I think the most recent one was a a guy who had been really abusive, and we got him fired from 3 different jobs at the same time.
Whoa.
Did they ever contact you afterwards?
So no, never. But yeah, so I mean, for me, I think that is impactful, and I think that is powerful. I think oftentimes people are like, oh, well, that's messed up, you're ruining people's lives. But then you realize that a lot of these jobs, like things like bankers, you're responsible for giving people loans, and if you're
totally.
racist, then what does that mean for the types of people that you're approving and whatnot? So, it's a really dangerous thing, and I don't think that, like, if the company fires you, then that's their fault. That's their responsibility to do that. It's not like I fired you myself. I just let it, I just publicize the fact that you're a horrible person.
You're doing public service.
Public service.
Totally.
We're getting close to like almost an hour, so we just want to wrap up. Do you have any future projects besides I guess like the podcast is one, but like, do you have anything else that you want to plug and let our audience know about?
Yeah. So I think there's 2 other things in addition to the podcast. One would be the fact that I am taking the next few months off from work to actually do speaking events.
Awesome.
So I'm going to multiple colleges, and I'm trying to just speak at as many colleges as I can. I had recently quit my job, and I was looking for a new job, but I realized that I might not ever have a chance to talk in front of 500 woke activists. And if there's any time to do it, then at 26 years old, I might as well do it right now.
Are you coming to LA?
What was that?
Are you coming to LA anytime soon?
I'm actually in talks with a couple colleges in SoCal, so I might actually be there.
Let us know, and we'll try and make it out.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be very cool.
Definitely. So yeah, I'm trying to go to as many universities as possible. So if there's any other people who are interested in me speaking for your club or an event or whatnot, let me know. But the other thing would be, and this is a little bit more of a tricky thing, but there are a lot of activists who are career activists. This is sort of how they make a living. This is sort of, what they put on their resume. And I am one of those people. I think that the tough thing, though, is trying to make a living, especially as an activist. It's like, okay, how do you turn a profit off of this? And also there's the criticisms of why are you making a profit off of this? Like, I think there's this assumption that if you're talking about social justice, then no money should be involved. It's like charity work.
You got to be poor forever.
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's ridiculous, and I think that people should get paid for their work.
Agreed.
No matter what you do. And so I'm trying to come up with sort of my business model to make sure I monetize the page while at the same time promoting small businesses owned by people of color. So
awesome.
What I've done is, instead of putting a GoFundMe page or a GoFundMe link or a PayPal link on my page and, hey, give me this money, which really isn't a consistent way of making money. I've leveraged the platform that I have on Facebook, and I am selling advertising.
Oh, interesting.
So if people are interested in advertising on a page that reaches upwards of 2 to 5, at max 11 million timelines, then hey, we can work.
Wow. You are our hero at 26 years old. And we are like almost 10 years older than you. But wow.
Way to date us.
I know.
I mean, we are the same age as you. I've been 23 for 15 years. Just kidding. Yeah, this is awesome. Thank you so much for doing this.
You're awesome.
You're awesome. We cannot sing your praises enough. Awesome is my favorite word. Mike is laughing at me. Ryan, do you want to send your hero off? You want to say the farewell?
Kind of want to learn some more stuff.
Oh, Ryan wants to learn more, but we're at...
No, but but congrats on all the success. Continued success to you. We hope that this is not the last time we speak. And let us know when you are in SoCal, and we'll try to make it out. But thank you for being here, and we've learned a lot. I'm sure our audiences have learned a lot, and yeah.
Cool. Where can people find you?
On Facebook.com/the LLAG, or just look up The Love Life of an Asian Guy.
Cool.
I'm also on Twitter and Facebook. Twitter and Instagram.
Awesome. Thank you again. Thank you. Are we cool with the recording?
Yeah.
Are we done? Mike, let us know.
He forgot to press record.
Oh my God, I would die. Okay.